That's because instantly I'm the enemy. They were ready to go in with any events that happen in America and blame Alex Jones. And again, I'm not trying to make this about Alex Jones. I've always tried to not be the big leader. I've always tried to say we all need to be leaders because I know that's something that can't be stopped, and also for my own safety. Believe me, I don't want to be out there, the big general parading around on my horse for every political sniper to shoot me. I'm back here in the laboratory. I'm a mad scientist of freedom, if you really want to know what I see myself as. I'm a tactician. We'll be right back. Imagine the illegal aliens can riot, attack police in Phoenix and other areas, and it's not even on the national news. It's on the local news, and they say it's no big deal. But then meanwhile, the entire military is training to take on veterans, gun owners, and conservatives and libertarians. And they're having drills to kill us. Now, this is big breaking news, but I'm going to go back to the calls. Jesse Warren, Daniel, and others, Tony and Fred. But coming up, this is up on PrisonPlanet.com. This just broke. When I saw him say yesterday he's going to send SWAT teams to the rigs, if he was doing an investigation, he'd send FBI. This was about nationalization, and that's what I talked with my wife about. See, they're just seizing everything. The auto, everything. Levin, SWAT team response to oil spill as government takeover plot. Former Reagan advisor suggests Obama is greasing skids for nationalization of the oil industry. We have the video of it. We have the article up on PrisonPlanet.com right now. Jesse in Louisiana, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex. When I was in the Army in Fort Bragg, when we got back from Afghanistan, we were tasked to train these National Guard tanker battalion to be infantry. And, one of the guys had been out of his contract for 16 years. I called him back because he missed drill a couple times. And he was, short, fat, in his 50s, in no way, in any condition to be fighting anybody. And we went to Iraq after that. We had to be extended twice because the National Guard unit that was supposed to relieve us was waiting for new equipment, and they were all like cops and SWAT from Northern California. And, it was just disgusting, like, talking to these guys when they got in country, like their mentality about, Americans, and as if they were talking about, like, illegal aliens or something, but just talking about their own citizens,
So where were you with police and SWAT training with National Guard with tanks, and they were basically talking about us like kill a commie for mommy, Americans, and the American flag is the new commie.
Exactly. And then, I was tricked into re-enlisting after I got out in 2004, and I had to train these reserve civil affairs soldiers to be more effective infantry soldiers, and then I ended up having to deploy with them to support the mission in Iraq again. So
what type of stuff would they say? Just talk about the public as scum, or
Well, they would talk about how nobody can be trusted, and they were blatantly talking about how they would entrap people with drugs or prostitution or things like that in order to get more information, and they would detain people, even if they knew they weren't valuable or whatever, and they planned on using all of those tactics in Iraq. I think one of their missions they mentioned was actually supporting the prisons and the transportation of prisoners from, wherever to wherever.
Well, the Pentagon has said Iraq and Afghanistan are laboratories, and I read where they would take fired federal former prison guards who've been raping prisoners and would give them big bonuses and ship them to the different camps and these different torture centers. And so you're saying National Guard guys were full of SWAT and police, and that they were bragging about how they set up Americans and how they were going to bring that there. I always thought of it as the reverse. Take troops, put them in a bad situation to warp their minds to bring them back. But you're saying they've been warped being paramilitary police, and they're now exporting it.
Well, I don't know, how their training went in California, but I know that they were definitely pre-programmed and geared up for, and also I don't know whatever training they went through, pre-deployment. They always have a mobility time period, 6 months or so before they deploy to, kind of recertify in their training and their military, whatever. Which is another thing I wanted to ask you about, because you mentioned about how all these National Guard and Reserve units are going and taking over these small towns, like you mentioned in Police State 4. when I was at Fort Bragg, we had that National Guard and Reserve soldiers that would stay in barracks right next to us all the time that the government would bring in. And we'd even have Marines that would come in and go on to Fort Bragg, stay there, and they train them before deploying. So I don't understand where they're using this as an excuse, where they have to take over small towns.
I've talked to police chiefs, generals, colonels, you name it. And in the open Army War College and other think tanks, they openly admit they're going to use foreign troops in America, and they admit this is for acclimating the public. I mean, I've interviewed police chiefs and emergency managers who have been told point blank, from Texas, Indiana, you name it. We've played clips on air. We've interviewed them live on air over the years, where they're even telling them. So if they're telling an emergency manager this is for a takeover of the U.S. scenario, can you imagine what the more secretive documents say? But are any of the veterans you're talking to concerned? Do they know about MIAC? I mean, will they be concerned about these new documents where they're training the military to take on the Tea Partiers?
I'm trying to wake up as many people as I can, but I mean, a lot of people, it's too heavy. You know, they don't want to believe it because it's so insane. People don't even make movies about this on Hollywood because it's so far-fetched. You know, but it's reality is stranger than fiction.
Stay there, Jesse. One more question.
We're on the march. The Empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
We are back live. I'm going to try to now hurry through Jesse, Warren, Daniel, Tony, and Fred's calls. Then, SWAT team response to oil spill as government takeover plot. That's what Levin's saying. Former Reagan advisor suggests Obama is greasing skids for nationalization of the oil industry. Well, I mean, what do you think the TSA is? I saw Ridge 7 years ago on C-SPAN say, we're going to take over the airports, and then we're going to have mobile scanners, and we're going to be at all the bus terminals and train stations and then on the highways at hardened checkpoints. Well, Bill Clinton announced that in 1998 that they were going to set that up in the future. That's in my film, Police State 2000. And I mean, I saw documents, a Clinton executive order from 94 about how they're going to take DNA at checkpoints, and now they're doing it under federal grants. I mean, it takes them a while to get this done, but everything's converging now. Everything's coming together. We're in the danger zone. I mean, it's on, okay? It is on now. So we're going to cover that, and this is exactly what's going on. Because they just put the message out there, SWAT teams. We're sending SWAT teams. They're not environmental experts. They're not petroleum geologists. They're not engineers. If you're looking for terrorism, you send the FBI. You don't send SWAT teams. They're there with force to seize things. This sounds like Hugo Chavez or Stalin seizing infrastructure. And they've been talking for years about seizing the oil industry, nationalizing it. And that'll be done by the big mega oil companies to shut down all their competition. Just like the Federal Reserve engineers the financial crisis and now has a financial reform bill that's very close to passing that gives them even more power over all financial institutions. Then it'll be selectively enforced. Okay, I have one more question for you, Jesse, in Louisiana. When you're trying to wake up your friends in the military and you say it's just too horrible, I mean, you can show them all the documents, all the training. Many of them have probably been given the training or know others that have been given it. I mean, this is on record that they want Brigade Homeland and that they are training to take on veterans. So I don't see how they can't wake up, Jesse.
Well, I mean, I know myself as a veteran, of multiple times deploying to different countries and being in the horrific situations I was in. I'm going through a hard time kind of recalibrating as a civilian and breaking down my programming. And it's hard because it's all about perspective, Alex, with dealing with other people and other cultures. When you're told in the States, especially older soldiers that have been training for this type of thing, I mean, there were people in my unit that were twice my age. I joined when I was 17. There was people that were twice my age that had never deployed and never done anything, but they had been training for it for 20 years, all of my command staff and everybody else. And then they go there, and they have this preconceived view of what it is, what the enemy is, you know?